Did good at the march yesterday, too.
Okay, we'll get started a little bit late here, but manager has something he wants to cover.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. By a little bit of, by way of follow-up, when we went over the legislative agenda back in November, I had asked to have the opportunity to come to you as the legislative session started to get going, and certainly in the heat of it all and so forth, to make sure I'm not getting ahead of you with regard to representations that I wanted to make or needed direction to make with regard to legislative issues as they sort of formulate and come together. Well, we certainly are at that point now. The legislative session is starting real soon. Committee meetings have been going on for some time, as you know. One of the issues that have come forward is with regard to the direct distribution portion of their discussions, and certainly we have a real high interest in that. You'll remember the direct distribution program is where the legislature sets aside about, lately it's been $105 million for cities and towns to take a piece of for their uses. That's critical for us because that $3.8 million that we get through that program gets sucked right into the operations of the general fund. They have passed an amendment out of committee that will make its way through the legislative process, and it may die, it may gain a lot of traction, I'm not sure which. But it does take some direct distribution dollars away from the larger cities and towns and funnels it back to the littler cities and towns. And as you can imagine, we are one of those towns that would impact negatively, I would say. They don't consider us a little town. So the question that becomes for me, particularly in light of the fact that on Thursday night we'll be visiting with our legislators, is how you view the situation and what our position ought to be. The impact for the city of Casper would be in the neighborhood of $85,000 to $90,000 a year. The last time around when direct distribution and that formula was messed with, it was significantly higher, you know, in the several $100,000 to $1 million range, depending on what large city you were in Wyoming at that time. I would tell you that if council doesn't want to lose any of the funding, we certainly can go that route, but I could also say that if indeed you're okay with helping the cities and towns out to the extent that is being described, it may not be necessarily the sword to fall on this time around. I don't like to see the city's revenues be hampered in any way, particularly given some of the progress we're making with annexation and so on, and the revenue that's going to bring to the city. It seems like we're kind of getting back to a net zero position, which is incredibly frustrating. But on the other hand, if we can go forward and say, hey, we can live with this for the small cities and towns. You got to remember us, however, on some of these other larger sort of requests that we're hoping to get your support on. Stormwater.
Presidential politics?
Yeah, kinda, huh? Yeah, that's right.
Quid pro what?
I support that 100%, Carter. I mean, I think the calculations are that if the direct distribution were ever cut significantly, we could lose 25 or 30 of the small towns. They would just cease to exist because they rely so heavily on that direct distribution. But yes, we ask for some help from them, not just on stormwater, but on the municipal option tax.
Absolutely.
That some of them have opposed. And so that needs to be pretty overtly, I think, discussed.
Fair enough. Okay. That is called the B-Bout Amendment, by the way, just so you know the parlance, if you will.
Are they still talking about staying with the 105? Because I had heard some rumblings of that going to 85.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, certainly there may be a few in the camp of wanting to take that 105 million down to a lower number. But it really does seem like the tide is working towards keeping that 105 million static. So I would say the minority might say, you know, individual legislators here and there might say that, but I really don't think that's the direction the legislature is going, thankfully.
Yeah, I've got to agree with Councilman Powell that, yeah, we can live with the cut, but you need to start thinking about allowing us to do some of our own taxation. Because when you did away with the consumable food item tax, you said you were going to make us whole, and now you keep cutting, and because that was part of their agreement too.
It was. Yeah. Fair enough, thank you. I think I got the direction I need. Appreciate that.
All right, everybody's got the executive session minutes. Agenda review, any questions on the agenda tonight?
Not that I have, Mr. Mayor.
Steve?
I noticed we're gonna spend $83,000 to change the HVAC system at Metro Animal. We have been the way we've been for umpteen years. We're kind of at a position where we're looking for monies. Is that a wise spending of $83,000? And I guess, but I do like the idea of it going back to, in response to your other email, I think the police department is a good place for it, as opposed to community development.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm in favor of that, so I guess too, should I be asking the question of the man behind you?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, Ms. Becker's been working on that aspect of Metro's physical plan, if you will, for some time. And would you like to address that question, Liz? Probably do better than I could.
Your Honor, members of council, we had first approached this with our 1 cent process this last fall. It's really become, or this last summer, I'm sorry, spring. It's really a life safety concern out there. The heat is intense in that kennel. There is no outside air ventilation. It's hot for the employees, but very stifling for the animals. Contrary with the cold, and with the extreme cold that we've had, we try to open up all of the doors when we leave in the evening so that the heat can come in from the front office, from the back break room, to give the animals. And I just really think citizens would probably be appalled if they knew the conditions of our fur creatures at times. But I also look at that small staff, and when citizens come in to look at animals, it's stifling. And so I had kind of, when we put it down as priorities, I went with priority 1 this past year from a life safety standpoint. Again, our employees and the animals and the citizens that are out there looking. So we really worked with value engineering on that one. And I say that to you, and Mr. Beamer's team was very helpful with that, and we really worked with the contractor on that, and including our city building officials. So I think we've got a solid product that will last us and carry forward many years with this one. We're really, we're confident, truly. It's not a patch job.
Okay.
Councilman Hugo?
Have you actually checked the temperatures in there?
Yes, sir.
What are they reading? You know,
Well,
like in summer, winter, you know, when you say they're hot and they're cold.
with, many times, Tori will take the internal readings and let our buildings and structures team know to get us floor fans. We're typically close to about 89 degrees in there in the summertime, and then in the winter we have been down to about 60, 62.
Councilman Biggs?
Those temperatures are right on. I went and got a German Shepherd from Metro, and my phone has a flare reading on it, and we were commenting how hot, and I was like, I'm just curious how hot it is. It was 86 that day inside where those dogs were, so she's right on. It's super hot in there.
Well, the only comment I'd add to that, we were just talking about it, is that it's probably original equipment on that building, and again, it's another building in the eighties that, you know, we're 40 years in the future. There's gonna be costs that are gonna come up on a lot of things that were built back then to replace or, so.
Well, I had misread the memo because the way it sounded is that it was heating okay in the winter and cooling okay in the summer, but during the swing months was when they were having issues. It sounds like I had misread the memo, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Carter, when we do the consent agenda, would you say a few things about the Interceptor project and the ice arena? Because I know that information's in the packet, but not everybody has time, and they're pretty big ticket items that I think should be explained.
I'd be pleased to.
Yeah.
You bet. Be happy to.
Anything else on the agenda? Okay, I've got some tickets here also to the, it's like the reverse raffle and auction, Boys and Girls Club. Anybody wanna go to that?
What's the date, Steve?
It's February 1st, Saturday.
It's torture.
Okay, well, if anybody change their mind, let me know.
Not on that subject, but that one guy, I forget his name, sent an email, I'm sure you got it too, where he was talking about consent items on really big ticket things.
Keith
I
Rowland.
wonder
Yep.
if that might not be a bad idea. Something that's over, say, $500,000 or $1 million, you know, $500,000 or at $500,000 or at $1 million, that those be dealt with individually instead of consent agenda. I don't know if that's worthwhile or not, or whatever, but, you know, that email did kind of pique my interest, because, you know, we certainly, unless there's some controversy about smaller things, you know, but I don't know what anybody's thinking is about that.
I agree with you.
If I remember right, he wanted it, did he want it to have public comment on the items that were larger? Is that,
Well,
that was one of the
yeah, have them
requests?
off of the consent
Okay.
agenda so they
Okay.
be dealt with individually, and that, I'm not sure how he wanted the public commenting
Yeah.
on all of them, but, you know, I did kind of just wonder if something's a certain profile, maybe it should be dealt with different than smaller items.
That's probably right, but I think we've also got a judgment call. We can ask for anything to be pulled from consent. And I think if we're getting specific questions, I think
Yeah.
we still have that option. And typically when we put something in consent, it's because we've discussed it here and on the floor. So we've kind of been through it, but that doesn't mean everybody hears what we say
Yeah,
on
well,
TV.
that's right, and it doesn't mean that everybody at a meeting, you know, all public.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with the way we've been doing it, other than that it did just kind of seem to me that maybe when something is a big ticket item, that it deserves to be dealt with differently. But I just wanted to raise that question, see if I was the only one that wondered about that.
I would think, like Councilman Powell mentioned, is that if we would go ahead and have a brief explanation about what it's about, should be sufficient, and go from there.
Well, it should be, but where do we draw that line with consent item agendas? With consent items on the agenda that, you know, if the city manager comments that, well, here we have this $8 million project that's on the consent agenda, it's because it's been discussed, blah, 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 or this $1 million item or whatever. I don't know what the answer to that is. I just wanted to bring that up and figured that wiser minds might have an idea, like maybe Councilman Cathy would have a magic wand.
So we're gonna go to Councilman Pacheco.
No, I am not. I am so far away from being wise, it's not even funny. I think, I agree with Bob. I think that we have those in place already to be able to do that. I think any citizen can pull anything off consent. That's my understanding.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, a citizen can call and make a request, and council has the call as to whether or not that can come off, so.
Correct. So, I mean, there's that communication, but we do discuss it. I think we do have a lot of conversations about it. I feel like there's plenty of transparency when we have these, especially big ticket conversations, to be able to do that. And I feel comfortable with the process that we have. We're okay with that. That's my opinion.
Mr. Mayor, in my experience, pretty much every time someone has suggested that something come off the consent agenda, I've said, oh yeah, that makes sense, we probably should talk about that.
Yeah,
And I have to own that when that happens, I really should have thought about that myself when we look through the agenda. And the only suggestion I would have is I think when we do the agenda in the work session, and I tried to do this a little more towards the end of my term, is that we stop and have a moment of silence so that everybody can take some time to go through all of those items. Because it's hard to, on the fly, just say, well, because when you look at it, you say, well, it looks okay. But we don't take the time to really think about the very things we're saying right now. And I think if we had done that, we might have said that at the work session. Maybe we should pull those two items. So that's my suggestion, is we just all be collectively a little more vigilant about some of those things.
Yeah, one other item regarding the same discussion, because I've done the same thing you've done, Charlie. I think, yeah, it's probably a good idea we talked about that a little more, but it's not necessarily totally related to dollars. There have been some things that have come off of the agenda for discussion that didn't have many dollars involved in them at all. So just having the discretion and a review, I think, we can probably get to the same point, I think.
Well, and I agree with all those things. The only thing that strikes me is, you know, being somewhat of a guy that waits until the last minute and does a lot of things on the fly. You know, I can picture citizens out there that might be interested in something, and they might, you know, they might not notice that something was coming up until it actually comes up. And then it's on the consent agenda, and they, you know, if they were here for some other thing, oh geez, maybe I would have liked to have talked about that. But I just wanted to bring that up, and I think this discussion has been productive, and, you know, I'm happy with it.
Anything else?
Will we have a moment of silence now?
Okay.
I was trying to reach out to Sean, because some people asked him.
Okay, I now call the January 21st, 2020 regular council meeting to order. Would council members please denote your presence by pressing your yes switch? And I would also like to excuse the absence of Councilman Johnson for military duty.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Hopkins, second by Councilman Huber. Please cast your vote.
There it goes.
There we go.
And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Council meetings are televised and can be viewed on cable channel 192. Is there anybody that would like to do the Pledge of Allegiance tonight for us or lead us in it? Anybody? Okay. Thanks, sir. The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the minutes of the January 7th, 2020 regular council meeting as published in the Casper Star Tribune on January 16th, 2020.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Pacheco, second by Councilman Bates. Any amendments? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the minutes of the January 14th, 2020 special council meeting as published in the Casper Star Tribune on January 20th, 2020.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Cathy, second by Vice Mayor Lutz. Any amendments? Please cast your vote. Please record. No.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the minutes of the January 14th, 2020 executive session.
Second?
Moved by Councilman Huber, second by Councilman Hopkins. Any amendments? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the January 21st, 2020 bills and claims as audited by City Manager Napier.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Powell, second by Councilman Huber. Any abstentions? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Now we'll move on to communications from persons present. Now is the time we invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak with the council to come forward. As stated on the first page of the agenda, we ask the following. Please state your name and address. Direct all questions, comments to the mayor and only the mayor. No personal attacks on staff or council will be tolerated. Council will not respond to personnel matters. These will be referred to the city manager. Questions posed by speakers may or may not be responded to by council members. Presentations will be limited to 5 minutes, and the duplication of speakers will not be allowed, nor will time extensions be permitted. Good evening, Mr. Reed.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Michael Reed, 1615 Luker Drive. I'm here this evening as one of the owners of liquor license number 1, Tin Shack LLC, doing business as Poplar Wine and Spirits. I have a concern as a liquor dealer. I don't know if any of you know this. I know I've talked to a couple of you about this. There's a what I consider an illegal speakeasy in Casper. It's called the Wyoming Secret Cocktail Society. They've been in business, and I call it business, since 2018. They charge a fee to be a member, and then they want you to tip their people, and that is a sale of alcohol. They don't buy anything from the Liquor Commission because they don't have a license. They don't have a license from you guys. I have had some conversation with the chief about this. I've had some conversation with the city manager. I've sent a number of emails and their Facebook pages, because they're on Facebook, seriously, to the police department, and we've been waiting 2 years for something to happen. And I certainly don't want to cause anybody any trouble. I don't want to cause the chief any trouble. He's a great guy, Carter. But sooner or later, somebody has to do something about this, unless you want a plethora of these to pop up in the community. Somebody needs to take some action on it. That's why I'm here. I'm going to ask that you guys look into it. Just look up Wyoming Secret Cocktail Society on the net, and you'll see everything that's been going on for 2 years. You can rent the place to have birthday parties. They have Halloween parties. They have New Year's Eve parties. There's no restrictions on them. They don't have a license, so they have no rules. If alcohol is a problem in this community, then we ought to do something about this. That's all I have.
Anybody
I
have
can
any?
take any questions.
Any
Have
questions?
tons of, excuse me. Have tons of things here if you'd like to see them sometimes.
Councilman Hopkins.
Can you get to that if you don't do Facebook?
What's that?
Can you get to their site or whatever it is on Facebook? I don't have.
Oh, you can get to it just on the net.
Okay.
also.
What's it called?
Well, it's pretty interesting. It has a number of things. It is hashtag Speakeasy Casper, hashtag Casper Downtown Casper, hashtag Cocktails, hashtag Cocktails Instagram, Wyoming Secret Cocktails Society, hashtag Cocktail Porn. Has a little bit of everything. And they have glossy pictures. Shows what they do. It's actually in the old Otto Hospital building down on North Grant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, we'll move on to establish the dates of a public hearing for micro brewery license number 6, Mountain Hops Brew House. Please read the consent agenda title.
Establishing February 4th, 2020 as a public hearing date for the consideration of new microbrewery liquor license number 6 for Mountain Hops Brew House LLC, doing business as Mountain Hops Brew House located at 612 North Beverly Street.
Chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, establish the public hearing date just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Cathy, seconded by Councilman Hopkins. Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of annexation and zoning of Ely Addition. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Your Honor. We have 3 exhibits. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Liz Becker to J. Carter Napier, dated January 8, 2020. Exhibit number 2, affidavit of publication, is published in the Casper Star Tribune, dated November 18, 2019. Excuse me. Exhibit number 3, Ely Addition Annexation Report, dated December 2019.
Okay, thank you. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is an owner-initiated annexation, the exhibit of which you will see here on your screens in just a second, wherein the owner would like to annex into the city for development purposes. This is located on Casper Mountain Road and consists of about 2 acres. The idea is that 2 1-acre lots would be created in this subdivision, so to speak, and again, desires to be annexed into the city. The purpose of the resolution this evening is to formally state that indeed this annexation does comply with statutes and is consistent with the best interests of the community, and accordingly, we too would be following the requirements of the statutes to make this happen.
Thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes, and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of the issues involving the Ely Addition, please approach the lectern. At this time, I'd ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the issues involving the Ely Addition, please approach the lectern. There being no one to speak for or against the issues involving the Ely Addition, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the resolution by title only.
A resolution finding facts pursuant to Wyoming Statute 15-1-402 regarding the annexation addition to the city of Casper.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve the resolution just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Powell, second by Vice Mayor Lutz. Discussion? And any amendments? Okay, please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
Please read the ordinance by title only.
An ordinance approving the annexation, plat, and subdivision agreement for the Ely addition to the City of Casper and zoning said addition R2 1-unit residential.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve on third reading the ordinance just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Hopkins, second by Councilman Bates. Discussion? Any amendments? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Please read the ordinance on second reading by title only.
An ordinance amending Section 10.24.020 of the Casper Municipal Code pertaining to 40-mile-per-hour speed zones.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve on second reading the ordinance just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Cathy, second by Councilman Bates. Council will now listen to public comment. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. Any discussion amongst council? Amendments? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
Second reading ordinance for the zone change track 4, North Platte River Park Edition. Please read the ordinance on second reading by title only.
An ordinance approving a zone change for a 2.8 acre portion of Tract 4, North Platte River Park Edition, generally located at the corner of Events Drive and North Poplar Street, north of Wilkins Way, from Park Historic to C4 Highway Business.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve on second reading the ordinance just read.
So moved. Second. Whatever.
Moved by Councilman Pacheco, second by Councilman Hopkins. Council will now listen to public comment. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. With no comments, any discussion? Any amendments? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With the abstention of Councilman Huber noted, motion passed.
Second reading ordinance for telecommunications franchise. Please read the ordinance on second reading by title only.
An ordinance granting a franchise to NT Tech Incorporated to operate and maintain a telecommunications system in the city of Casper, Wyoming.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve on second reading the ordinance just read.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Bates, second by Councilman Powell. Council will now listen to public comment. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. No comments, any discussion? Any amendments? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
Please read the consent resolutions by title only.
Item 11A1, a contract with Communication Technologies for the purchase and installation of police vehicle equipment. Item 11A2, creating the local assessment district 157, Arrowhead Road and Jade Avenue roadway improvements. Item 11A3, an agreement with Casper Electric for the lighting replacements project. Item 11A4, acceptance of 2 real estate donation agreements and 2 donative quitclaim deeds from the Platte River Trails Trust. Item 11A5, a procurement agreement with 3 Cord Construction for the solid waste portable litter fencing project. Item 11A6, an agreement with Sheet Metal Specialties for the Metro Animal Controlling Cooling project. Item 11A7, authorizing loan documents with the State Loan and Investment Board for a Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan. Item 11A8, terminating the lease agreement with the 19th hole for the 2nd floor of the Casper Municipal Golf Course Clubhouse. Item 11A9, approving a lease agreement with Ann Holman for the Fort Casper Caretaker's Residence. Item 11A10, authorizing a consent to assignment of license agreement with Octagon Towers LLC. And item 11A11, authorizing an agreement with Haas Construction for the Casper Ice Arena chiller system replacement.
Chair would entertain a motion to adopt the consent resolutions just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Huber, second by Councilman Pacheco. City Manager would like to comment on any of these items.
Mr. Mayor, I would, if I could, please. There's 2 items that I'd like to bring out for specific attention this evening, one of which includes the ice arena ice plant. As many of you know, we've been deliberating with this project for quite some time, and after 3 bid processes, we've come to the point and the conclusion, certainly pursuant to the conversation with council a couple weeks ago, that indeed it's time to move forward and get this project done. The problem is that this project is more expensive than we had budgeted and is in fact in the neighborhood of $2.1 million, if I remember correctly. And so while it is coming at a great cost, it's also coming at a great period of waiting time with regard to the user groups that have been involved and anxious about this repair to happen. And so I'm pleased that we're having it get completed finally, but I'm also remorseful that it's coming at such a high cost. The second thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is with regard to what we call the Interceptor project. This is a very significant sewer line rehabilitation that serves a lot of West Casper with regard to the sewer needs that we have, as well as some of the other communities that are a part of our regional cooperation. This project is an $8 million project that we anticipate getting a loan from the state on in order to complete. The good news is, with regard to this project being completed, the state does have a 25% principal forgiveness clause that we'd like to take advantage of, which means that we get an $8 million project for $6 million, the debt service of which would be exercised by the sewer fund, the sewer enterprise. And so a couple big ticket items that I wanted to bring to your attention. Not that we haven't talked about these things before, but I would assume that our viewers at home may not be fully aware of what indeed we're dealing with tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any abstentions or nay votes? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Please read the consent minute action titles.
Item 12A1, rejecting all bids for the Sam H. Hobbs wastewater treatment plant secondary treatment rehabilitation project. Item 12A2, authorizing the purchase of network equipment with Converge One. Item 12A3, adoption of the Casper Historic Preservation Strategic Plan.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent minute action agenda items just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Huber, second by Councilman Bates. Any abstentions or nay votes? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
This time of the week, we ask council members to bring forward relevant concerns or items of interest. Councilman Bates.
Then tonight.
Councilman Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I just may add to the city manager's report on the Interceptor project, we all are aware of this, but I think it's good for the members of the public to be aware. Essentially, this was a pipe that was overbuilt many, many years ago, and because of that, there's gas that is in the pipe because it's never filled, and that gas, I think it's hydrogen sulfide if I remember correctly, causes the concrete to deteriorate. And so if we don't deal with this, and it's a lot of money, but if we don't deal with this, that pipe will eventually fail. And so we've been talking about this for quite a few years because that west end of Casper was never built up like it was anticipated, and it's just something we have to do. So for some people, maybe the first time that you're aware of it, but we've been talking about it for years. I also like to note the donation of the land along the river from La Platte River Trust that was accomplished this evening. This is a very significant matter in terms of Casper's long-term health along the river. We're fortunate that the city and the Platte River Trust have a good working relationship, and we need to carry out that, accept that donation, because the city is the only entity that can apply for funds from the Wyoming Business Council to create a park there, which is what we want to do. And so if we can pull this off, it's really going to be a beautiful addition to Casper's downtown area and riverfront. And it's going to create access for the citizens in an area where there hasn't really been access. And it's really going to be beautiful, and we appreciate the Trust's willingness to donate that land to us so we can move forward with that project. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Cathy.
Excuse me. I would like to thank K2 TV and the mayor and all of those other people on staff that were involved in our first council minute that appeared last Thursday on KTWO channel K2 TV, and I thought that was very well done, and kudos to TV and all of the people involved within the city to get that done, and I look forward to seeing that continue.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Lutz.
Nothing tonight.
Councilman Pacheco.
Nothing tonight.
Councilman Huber.
Nothing.
Councilman Hopkins.
Oh, geez, I hate to break the monotony, but a couple of small items. We've got the long-range transportation will be before the MPO Policy Committee, I believe on Thursday of this week, and it's the same one we all looked at, except now it's the final form, and so once we do that, it becomes implemented. It's a long-ranging plan, literally. It goes out to, I think, 2038 or something like that. Now, we have to do this every 5 years, I think, for the federal government, and you do that in order to get some federal funding is required. So anyway, that's coming down the pike. The other thing, I don't know how many of you made it up on the mountain last year, but they're going to do a Valentine's dinner up at Hogadon, and last year it was really fun. It was a nice thing. So just heard about that today, and I think it's on Valentine's Day, but I'm not sure of that. That's it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I had the opportunity to be in the Martin Luther King Day March yesterday and do a proclamation, and I appreciated the fact of being able to be involved in that. That went very well and very good turnout for it. And then, Councilman Cathy, I want to thank you for the idea of the council minute. We discussed a lot on how to disseminate information out to the public, and at times it's rather difficult to do that. So I appreciate the fact that David with K2 took the torch and ran with it right away last week, and we literally talked about it Tuesday, and by Thursday it was up and running. So I encourage people to tune in and pay attention on Thursdays, and we will get out disseminated information that comes up and keep that thing going. I think that'll be a very valuable asset for all of us. So the next meetings of the City Council will be a work session to be held at 4:30 p.m. Tuesday, January 28th, 2020, in the Council's meeting room, and a regular Council meeting to be held at 6 p.m. Tuesday, February 4th, 2020, in the Council chambers. The Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Bates, seconded by Vice Mayor Lutz. Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With Councilman Kathy voting nay, motion passed.
Meeting is adjourned.
It's up to you.